Hey there, it's Lucas Catton, and today I wanted to share with you something that I often struggle with, and I'm certainly struggling with it right now in different areas, and it comes up from time to time, and that is the concept of surrendering, and really surrender versus control, and I think that there's if you're like me, there's always times where you want to try and control every aspect of something to ensure a particular outcome. And in reality, that's not only not always possible, but but it can also cause a lot of problems for us when we desire to control things so meticulously. And I found this actually great quote, or a little quote here from an article at wanderlust.com about let go of control, and the universe has your back. And it says, when we're attached to outcomes in our lives, it quickly leads us to suffering and pain. We are co-creators of our lives, but we can't always control what happens. And that kind of speaks to me in that sometimes when you're in an effort to control things, it definitely does lead to some pain and suffering. And when we're way too attached, as I've talked about in some other videos too, when we're too attached to the outcome, and that we are setting ourselves up for disappointment, and that expectations are like the root of disappointment. So we can have goals, we can work toward those goals, we can have a desired result, we can even have a desired outcome. But when we hang on to it so fiercely that anything other than that particular outcome is going to be deemed as failure to us, or as upsetting or disappointing or anything along that line, then chances are we're going to be setting ourselves up for problems, for pain, for suffering, for disappointment, and things like that. And we can go off in a bunch of different directions here about talking about attachment, and we'll probably do another video on that, and talking about letting go of things as well. And that's a whole other topic in terms of letting go, and that's part of surrendering. And a couple great books that I've read that from Michael Singer. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but one of my favorites is it's called The Untethered Soul. If you haven't read it, I would recommend checking that out from Michael Singer. And his follow-up, or one of the follow-up books that he's written, is called The Surrender Experiment. And it's an interesting thing because the surrender experiment is basically his story of his life, of how he went from a meager guy, in Central Florida, of no real means, just sort of followed his spiritual path of whatever seemed to speak to him, and to whatever itself to him, he then would take that next step. And that it didn't mean that he didn't have desires. It didn't mean he didn't have goals. It didn't mean he didn't have ambition even. It just meant that he was letting go to what the universe was presenting to him and continuing on that path. And he wound up developing this huge sort of retreat type setting in the Ocala forest, I think. And he eventually became this home builder. And then after that, he became a CEO of $1 billion software company. So it's like, how do you make these huge leaps of things that are seemingly totally disrelated? And that's really what the entire message is about in that particular book, is how he surrendered to what was and went along with things. And I think that somewhere along the line of total surrender and total control is sort of a balance that I'm trying to achieve, and knowing when to let go of things, and what to surrender to. Surrendering to the universe, yes. You might have heard the statement, probably, let go and let God. If this speaks more to you, of letting go of only your egoic desires, and listening to and paying attention to what God or the universe presents in your life, and how much good can come of that, and where that might lead. And you know what? Maybe we don't get that specific job that we wanted, but instead that leads to one that's even better, or that we're meant to be, or that we then meet someone at who we're supposed to do something with. Maybe it's a wonderful friendship, or maybe some other kind of relationship, or maybe we think we want that particular relationship when it it's someone else that we're meant to be with or whatever, but what I mean is that by surrendering to some of these things and to the processes of things, going through something where we want to try and control every step of the process when really just have to trust the process sometimes and know that the outcome will be what should be. And that's, again, something that I really, really struggle with, because wanting something to happen now or wanting something to happen a particular way or in a particular fashion can be very difficult. And allowing it to unfold as it should, continuing on the steps on the path as you go, and realizing that if not now, then, or if not this, something else, or if not here, somewhere else, and that those things are okay. And the more we try and control every single aspect, the more frustration we can develop on the inside, the more anxiety we can develop on the inside, the more suffering as a whole that can come about that when we absolutely try and control everything in our lives, because we can't. There are plenty of things that are 100% out of our control, and we can, as the first quote said, we are co-creators of our lives. So we do have influence, we can have ambition, we can have goals, but by no means can we control everything. And that the more that we can allow ourselves to surrender, as I'm finding out, the better off things become, the easier life gets, and the less attached we are to things and circumstances and so forth in an unhealthy way. So I hope that makes some sense. Definitely encourage you to check out Michael Singer's books, Surrender Experiment and The Untethered Soul. And if you have any questions at all, or you want to connect up in any way, hit me up at lucascatton.com. Feel free to comment on here, and I'd love to start up a discussion. I really appreciate some of the feedback lately. And again, I look forward to connecting more. Take care.